Welcome, everybody. I'm Brianna with the National Safe Boating Council. Today we have Virgil, Captain Virgil. He is going to be doing the boat on course session today with rule number 20 and 25, lights and shapes. Welcome, Captain Virgil.
Thank you, Bree, and welcome all. I want to make sure that everyone can see my screen, right? They can't see me. They can see the boat on course, rule 20 to 25, which is a little deceiving because we're going to get into a little bit more than that. Lights and shapes, and then my name, yes. July. Everybody can see that? Good. Yes. All right. I'm going to go ahead. All right, just a little bit about me. You can read that. I don't need to read it to you. I am a OUPV Coast Guard captain. I am the NASBLA course review coordinator, meaning that all the courses that are NASBLA approved or sanctioned or verified go through me. I am a instructor trainer for the National Safe Boating Council, which I enjoy very much, and the program manager for the NASBLA Inland Boat Operator and Marine Patrol Fundamentals Train the Trainer. I am also a past executive director of the National Safe Boating Council and chief of boating safety when I worked for the state of Pennsylvania. So you'd think I'd know a lot, but as you see when we go through this, it can be deceiving. All right, the session is being recorded and it will be shared on the NSBC website. Okay, and you can use the chat feature. Tell us your name and where you're located and a bit about yourself if you'd like. That'd be great. And if you do have a question, please raise your hand. I'm going to admit that I normally work with Teams and Zoom not that commonly, so I may get a little bit disoriented, but I think we'll make it through here. Give a thumbs up, express yourself with the reaction features that Zoom provides, okay? And then we'll go ahead and get started here. I put up navigation rules 20 to 25. It's lights and shapes. And let me just say that this is the most complex in the entire navigation rules. That's just not my opinion. That is the opinion of many people who work with the nav rules. Basically, why it is so complex is I'll talk a little bit about that. And when we go through the program and some of the slides that I have and some of the different rules, all of this will come into play. But most rules in Part C, and this is Part C of the lights and shapes and the nav rules, there will be situations where it'll say, if vessel X is doing this and vessel Y is this long and vessel Z is under this conditions, then these are the lights that you'll display or the shapes. So it gets into also exceptions, unless or but ifs. So there's a lot of that goes on in this particular rule. Multiple vessel categories overlap. But I mean, a vessel can simultaneously be doing things like towing. It could be restricted in its ability to maneuver. It could be making headway. It could be over 50 meters long. It could be engaged in dredging. It could be in a traffic separation scheme, which is also a very complicated rule, which I was very blessed to have a couple of months ago, and we did get through it. But it is complicated like the lights and shapes. Each status that changes with the lights and shapes, this is why boaters often struggle, because they're trying to memorize these rules, and they're not easy to memorize. it's best if you kind of classify them. When we talk about shapes, and a lot of this stuff will make sense when we get into the rules as we go through. We talk about shapes. Shapes are less intuitive than the lights. Lights make sense visually. We know red and green and what that means, and a white light and so forth, and a yellow light. Shapes require a little bit of mental translation. We're going to be talking about shapes like ball, cone, cylinder, diamond. And all of these will mean something. But sometimes when you combine them, and they will be combined under certain conditions, it's not intuitive what they'll be. You say, well, if we talk about it being anchored ball and we talk about its, maybe we'll talk about a cylinder, combining that. No, it takes a whole different meaning. It takes a whole different meaning. And again, this will make a little bit more sense. In the rules of lights and shapes, when we get into rule 24 and 27, which I'm not going to, like I say, I put up here 20 to 25, but we're going to dabble in some of the others. You can't go anywhere unless you start at the beginning, and that's with 20, and that's where we're starting. But like rule 24 talks about towing and pushing, and there are multiple configurations we talk about towing and pushing. The length of the tow, the number of boats that are there, there's all kinds of factors. We get into rule 25, we talk about sailing vessels and vessels under oar, which at first glance are pretty simple. But there are exceptions when we talk about optional lights. It adds to the complexity of what's going on. Rule 26 gets into fishing vessels. Rule 27 gets into restricted in the ability to maneuver. And this allows for a lot of confusion. So let's go ahead and get started. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm not saying that I can answer it, but I have the NAV rules in front of me. I have some other rule books that help explain, and we'll boil it down if we can. Okay? Let's go. All right. In this module, like I say, we're going to cover rule 20 to 25 because that's really the bulk of what most of you will consider when dealing with lights and shapes. 20, and don't worry about it, I know you probably can't read this stuff, but 20 deals with the application. Rule 22 deals with some definitions, and we'll get into these. 21 deals with definitions. 22 deals with visibility of lights. Number 23 deals with power-driven vessels. 24 deals with towing and pushing, which again are two different things, but it's many times has the same objective, getting another boat upstream or downstream, or downriver, down upstream, upriver, downriver. Rule 25 deals with sailing and vessel under oars, which again seems simple, but can get complicated. All right. Rule 20, we talk about application. Lights are required from sunset to sunrise. And when we talk about nav lights and shapes, what we're actually doing is we're helping boats or vessels identify each other when visibility, distance, or traffic makes communication through radio or other forms of communication difficult. Lights, like I say, are required from sunset to sunrise. Also, they're required when we have restricted visibility. That would be things like fog, rain, haze, other conditions limiting our sight. When we talk about daytime shapes, shapes are used during the daylight hours as prescribed in specific rules, and there are lots of rules. Boating is full of rules. Lights are not required during the day, except in, and that's when I say there's going to be a lot of things that say except or if or but except when restricted visibility, back to the fog or the rain or the haze that might be there. And that's when they become mandatory. Also, we talk about both the call regs, when we talk about the international rules and the inland rules, apply to the same structures, the same boats. However, inland variations are noted where they specifically exist. Again, very confusing to understand what the language is until you start looking at the lights and some of the other vessels and how big they are and what they're doing and so forth. So we'll get into that. And the compliance standard is no vessel may exhibit lights or shapes that could be confusing with the required lights or shapes. So you can't, randomly put other kinds of lights on your boat. You want it to be a party boat, and you do this and that. If that confuses people on the water, you can't do that. It impairs their visibility to distinguish what's happening. The day shapes that we'll talk about seem pretty simple. Okay, we have Rule 20D, day shapes. We have a ball. Whenever I think of a ball, when I first got into boating, when a vessel was exhibiting a ball, that means it was anchored. A vessel at anchor, like the photo shows here. Here's a vessel, here's a boat out there. It has a ball, that boat's at anchor. If there is a cone, and it's like a diamond, and that cone is facing down, it's motor sailing. It's that the sail and engine are in use on that boat. If it has a diamond shape showing, we're talking about tow exceeding 200 meters on a tug or a towed vessel. We'll talk a little bit more about that. If there is a cylinder showing in the day shapes, it means that vessel is constrained by its draft. It really can't go possibly outside of the channel because it's constrained by its draft. If there are two balls, one over top, we refer to this as not under command. Okay, it cannot maneuver. Sometimes with lights, when those two balls, it's red over red. We sometimes, a little rhyme, we say the captain is dead. It cannot, that boat cannot maneuver. These day shapes can be mixed. Okay, and I'm not going to get into this, but like you have three balls like this. This is minesweeping operations. Does that relate to anchoring? No, not really. And probably in some way someone could envision that. But other combinations of the things of these different shapes need to be memorized. If there are three balls in a row, that vessel is aground. Is it anchored? Yeah, I guess it is. It's aground. All right. Rule 21, as I said earlier, talks about definitions. And these are pretty straightforward. Most of you will probably be familiar with these. A white light, a white mast headlight, and we'll talk a little bit about the degrees only to give you an orientation to it. But the white light spanning dead ahead, the 22.5 degrees abaft the beam, what that means is it's 22.5 degrees off the beam, which is 90 degrees. Therefore, this is farther back than what's a beam of you. And that's the white light, and that's the mast headlight. Another light that we should be somewhat familiar with, and that is the red light, or the port side of the boat. Red lights are from dead ahead to 22.5 degrees abaft the port beam. It's on the port side. Red is on the port, visible only on the port side. And we'll talk a little bit, combined ladders, lanterns are permitted on vessels less than 20 meters. And if you get confused with meters and so forth, I'll kind of reflect it back. 20 meters, we're talking about 65 and a half feet on a boat for a boat length. Green light, that's the starboard side. Okay, the starboard side is the green light from dead ahead to 22.5 abaft the starboard right side, okay, the beam. Visible only on the starboard side. It actually mirrors the image of the port side, okay? Red is on port, green is on starboard. There's another white light, and that is the one that's aft. AFT, that's aft. That means basically in the back or the stern, the aft part of the boat, okay? The white line is centered on the dead astern, covering 67.5 on each side, okay? Now, what's interesting is that this white light with that 67.5 on each side completes a full 360-degree horizon combined with the masthead light, which is actually 225 degrees, 22.5 abaft the beam on the left and the right. If you do the math, you'll see it all adds up. For example, the arc coverage check, the port side is 112.5 degrees, and the starboard side is 112.5 degrees, and the stern light is 135 degrees. That's a total horizon coverage of your total circumference of 360. Hopefully, I'm not confusing you on this, but that's how these lights work as far as where they're located, where they stop, and another light picks up. Someone who's a mariner will know exactly what they're looking at when they see the lights. Now, we're also going to talk a little bit about yellow lights. Yellow lights identify at 135-degree arc as the stern light. Carried above the stern light, identifies a vessel engaged in towing astern. Not used in the pushing ahead, it's towing astern. That's the yellow light, and it's an aft light. You only see it in the back of the boat. Again, types of lights in the definition, we have white, red, green, and yellow. Okay? This may help explain a little bit more, or it may confuse. This is the light arc reference. When I talked about dead ahead, the bow, this is dead ahead. Are you seeing my cursor? Thumbs up? Okay. And then on the port side, it's the red port. Okay. And that goes to 22.5 abaft the beam. A beam would be right here. This is 22.5 degrees here. And we talk about the green, which is starboard. It's 112.5 all the way from the bow to that point, 22.5 degrees abaft the beam. So there's red, green. That's your forward lights. And then, of course, your stern light picks up. Okay. The masthead light is 225. That would be the one that would be, it spans both sides of the port and starboard, where the red light starts and the green light stops, if you want to look at it that way. On the stern, again, we have the bow. We've already talked about what's up here. This is dead astern. And this is our stern light. Okay, 135 degrees. And we also have the yellow light when we're talking about a towing light. And that is 135 degrees. If you understand this, great. If not, don't let it overwhelm you, okay? We'll go on to the next one here. All right. Rule 21, side lights, port and starboard. We've already talked about that. This is approaching head on. So take all the words away and you'll see a white light, a green light, and a red light. and you know that the red is port, so this boat is coming towards you. You're seeing a white light. You say, well, I thought that was a start. That's a masthead light. If you were looking behind it, we'll talk about it in a minute, you wouldn't see the port and starboard light. Starboard being the right side, port being the left side. Something that you probably learned when you first got into boating is one way to remember this is the shorter words, port, left, red. Okay, not like starboard, right side, right, and green is longer. Okay. I'm going to throw this one in here, although I never understood how it ever worked. But it's Rule 22 under Part C, lights and shapes. And that's the visibility of the lights. A masthead light needs to be visible for 6 nautical miles. That's that forward white light, okay? If we're talking about, and that's on vessels that are greater than 50 meters. 50 meters are, again, 165 feet. We're talking about a good sized boat here. If the boat is less than 50 meters, then the masthead light has to be visible for 5 nautical miles. Vessels less than 12 meters, which 12 meters is now that 39 and a half, a 40-foot vessel, they only have to be visible for 2 nautical miles. Right? The red and green side lights for boats greater than 20 meters, which is that 65 feet, 3 nautical miles. The side lights for boats less than 20 meters, less than that 65 feet. It's most of the stuff that we are probably more familiar with. It's only 2 nautical miles. And again, surprisingly, on the water, you can see a lot farther than you would normally think you could see. But 2 nautical miles is not that far on the water. So seeing that red and green light should be relatively easy for most. Stern and towing, that stern light and towing light, that white stern or that yellow towing light, which is on the stern also, 2 nautical miles is what's required. Okay, if you're not confused, you're wrong direction. These are some actual graphics that were taken from the nautical rules, the nav rules. And basically, here we have a boat 65 feet or greater in length, and it has a mast light, the white light, and it has the port red light and the starboard green light, and then it has a stern light. If you take the mast light and you put the stern light together, you're going to be able, with this boat, see that boat from any point around it, 360 degrees, okay? If we're talking about a boat less than 12 meters, less than that 40 feet, 39 and a half feet actually is a 12-meter boat. The port and starboard lights may be combined with the red and the green. These are combined lights, unlike what we see over here, okay, when they're split apart. They're allowed to be combined. The angles are the same, and it needs to have an all-around stern light. As you see this, it's stern light you can see all the way around. Most of our boats have that type of configuration, or many boats have that type of configuration. The last thing is a power-driven vessel under 7 meters. Under 7 meters is 22 feet, all right? Or actually 23, 22.9 feet. And that means that this boat needs to have an all-around white light. Okay, an all-around white light. And that's what's covered in the nav rules in Rule 23. Power-driven vessels underway. Boom. I'm just going to touch on this just because it was mentioned earlier. The all-around flashing yellow light on a hover-type vehicle. This is an air cushion vehicle when operating in a non-displacement mode. That means it's up in the hover mode. Vessels less than 50 meters, again, that's 165 feet. Display it where it can best be seen. And then the all-around flashing red light, another light we're not that familiar with. It's a special light on Rule 23 that deals with we call wing in-ground a seaplane type situation. How are we doing, folks? We hanging in there? All right, now we're going to give you a quiz. All right, what do you see? What are we actually looking at here? Think about it. What are we actually looking at? You don't have to speak out loud here. Just form. What are we looking at? First of all, I'm seeing the red and green light. So I'm seeing the forward part of the vessel. Okay? And I'm seeing two white lights. You're seeing two mast heads and a red and green side light. Basically, what you're seeing is a power-driven vessel over 26 feet, head on. If you see that, you need to alter your course. That's in a meeting situation, all right? How about if you see this? It looks like a white light. Now, a white light can tell you a number of different things. One of the things that, if I see that white light, I might say, I'm approaching a boat on its stern. I'm not going to see its running lights. I'm going to see its stern light. So I'm approaching this boat at stern, so I want to do something. I probably want to turn away from it. Okay, what else could I be seeing? How about a boat that's a small 7-meter boat that has that all-around white light? It might be heading right toward me, okay? Or it might be off to the side. Or what else might it be? Single white light, no color side lights visible. Stern of the vessel, you're overtaking a vessel. Like I said, that's probably what's happening. Or it's a small vessel without the green and red light, like that 7-meter rowing boat. Or it could be an anchored vessel. In any case, when you see a white light, you want to keep clear. You're going to keep clear of the boat, all right? Because you really don't know for sure what it's doing. People get into trouble because they see a white light and they head toward it, and it's very hard to judge distances on the water, and they find out that they're on top of it in a matter of minutes or seconds. If I see a white light, I want to stay away from it, unless there's some other indication that they need assistance or something else is happening. All right, what do you see here? What do you see here? Well, we're looking at what side of the boat? Left, right? Left, correct, I should say. It's the left side because we're seeing that port side. Red, port, left. It's all there. And we're also seeing an all-around white light. What is that light? And the proximity tells me it's probably a masthead light. It most likely what it is. Let's take a look here. What we got here: red light, side light, and an all-around white stern light. Okay, it's not a masthead light. It's an all-around white stern light. It's a smaller vessel, and the vessel is crossing in front of me from right to left, because this is the red is the leading portion of it, and the stern, this is the aft portion of it. That's the direction it's going. You need, as a boat operator, if you see this, to give way immediately. What would be the ways you would give way? You can answer that question yourself. You could stop, or you would turn to your starboard. And I'd be headed this way. I would turn this way to go around behind it, its stern, because that's its stern light. Okay? Is it making sense? All right, folks. I'm going to throw some towing configurations up here. Many variations depending on circumstances here. This is a boat that's towing. It doesn't show the tow lines, but this is the boat that's actually towing. This is the boat that's being towed. This towing boat has the yellow light, like we said, in the stern. It has the normal lights, so we think the red port, green starboard. It has the masthead light, and it has two masthead lights here because of its size. Okay, and it is towing a boat. And we see that white light that would be back there. So if I would be approaching this operation from astern, I would probably be seeing that white light, and that would want me to keep away. Keep away. If I would be approaching it the side, I would see a series of lights. I'd see a green light, and I'd see another green light. But on this boat, what would I see? This first boat, what would I see different than that boat that was being towed? Yes, that yellow light. Therefore, that yellow light tells me that that's a tow vessel. So what don't I surely want to ever do is go between that yellow light and that boat that's behind it, because there is a line across there that's not going to be marked very easily, okay? And this is why you have that yellow line light that's there. If you're pushing, this is another towing type situation. It's a pushing ahead situation. And it actually shows a yellow light on a pushing ahead on the bow of this, and it shows two yellow lights on the stern. Again, it's that combination of lights that tells me really what's happening. On this side, if I'm looking at it on this side, I'll see the green lights. I'll see the yellow light, and I'll see two yellow lights here. I'll see masthead lights, and that will tell me what's happening. It is a towing vessel, but it is a pushing ahead. It is a pushing ahead. These are some other light displays that you may see. Big container type ships, you know. The red light, the green light, the masthead light, and this is an all-around white light. And it's a power-driven vessel on the Great Lakes. And the reason it's like that, it's different than just the stern light, which matches up with the masthead light, is because someone will say, well, this is a white light here, and this is a boat up here that's cruising. I'll just go this direction here. You're going right through that craft. And that's why if you know your lights, which you should, again, not many people do unless you're really a professional mariner or you've been out there at night and you know what's happening. There's a power-driven vessel towing astern. Again, there's that tow light, that yellow light, that stern light, a couple of masthead lights. Tells, again, the length exceeds 200 meters, the two lights, meaning that there is 200 meters. That's 650 some feet, people, of distance there. Therefore, you have to know what's going on. There's the diamond. if it's during the day and you see that, because many times you're not going to see, you got to look at this boat and you need to see the day shapes, because you may not see that line that's across there, and you don't want to go between the tow and what it's towing, or the towboat and the towing. And again, this is a vessel that's complicated because this is a tow alongside many lights, the red and the green. Here's a red and a green, and there's a masthead light. There's a masthead light here. There's a stern light. There's a stern light. Ooh, that's a stern light there. That's a stern light there. That's a stern light for this boat here. This boat is towing alongside. Okay. It's basically like a tugboat. It's helping a barge out here. You may or may not have seen those. Rule 25. Like I said, there's lots of rules under lights and shapes. We talk about sailing vessels and vessels under oar. Typically, that's an easy one. It's one that I learned early in my basic boating days. If it's a sailing vessel, it will have the red light, the green light, and if it's of the proper size, it will have a red over green. Those of you that remember those little rhymes, red over green, a sailing machine, and there is its stern light. Here's the tricolor, which is acceptable. It's a red and a green and a white, and that's acceptable for a sailing vessel. So it may show the sailing vessel lights or the white all-around light or a white electric torch. This is a vessel under oars or rowing, or a small sailboat, as it shows here. And these lights, these white lights, are critical, particularly the white electric torch or the flashlight, shown in time to prevent a collision. Because as you're out there and you see red lights and green lights coming at you and white lights and other lights all around you, if anything is coming close to you, you better illuminate yourself. If you have that all around white light, or if you don't have that and you have a flashlight, shine it upon your sail. That will be a big illumination. Those of you that have ever been on a small sailboat and you're out there after dark, which is not a smart thing to be, but sometimes it happens. Hopefully you have a flashlight. You can shine it on the sail, not at whatever you're looking at, but on the sail so they can figure out what you are. Okay. There's a key principle here. I got these slides I didn't make up. I kind of put them together. Most of them were help from AI, but just a word of caution. Most of the AI information that I got was wrong. They even had things as subtle as the green light and the red light, the left and the right mixed up. So don't rely on your AI to develop some kind of teaching or learning method when you're dealing with lights. You need to double check them with your nav rules that you have and go through them and make sure that it's proper. That's proper. Key principle: using an engine equals power-driven vessel. So regardless of whether it's a sail, the sails are set. If the engine is used, it triggers a full power-driven light requirements. Okay, you need to have that red and green light. All right. Key takeaways from what I said. And like I said, there's an awful lot of information, and it's not something that's easy for me to explain since it is so complicated, but it is something that does take a lot of practice, and videos would be good to look at when you're dealing with moving vessels and lights. But here are some of the things just as a recap. Lights are required between sunset and sunrise and in restricted visibility. Shapes are for the daylight use. Rule 21. There are 5 types of lights. We have the masthead light, which is a white light. We have the port light, which is a red light. We have the starboard light, which is a green light. We have the stern light, which is a white light. And the all-around light, if you combine these, determining what angle you're looking at that boat while you're on the water in the evening. So depending on what you can see, depending on what you're actually looking at. And that's all determined by the masthead, the port, the starboard, and the stern light. Rule 21 also talks about the 3 arc lights, the 2 side lights, and the stern light, totaling exactly the 360 degrees of the horizon coverage. Rule 22, larger vessels require greater range. Vessels greater than 50 meters need a masthead light visible at 6 nautical miles. So the intensity has to be such that you can see it at 6 nautical miles. Rule 23, power-driven vessels underway, forward masthead light, the side lights, the red and the green, and the stern light. Vessels greater than 50 meters. Add vessels greater than 50 meters, you add that secondary masthead light. Okay, again, this is for mariners to be able to tell what they're looking at, what kind of vessel they're dealing with that's on their port side, starboard side, dead ahead. Rule 24, count the masthead lights. If there's 2, equals a towing less than 200 meters or pushing. 3, masthead lights, it's greater than 200 meters. Again, being able to distinguish the length of that boat or the approximate length of that boat by counting the masthead lights. 2, it's less than 200 meters or it's pushing. And 3, towing greater than 200 meters. Wow, I'm starting to. All right, rule 25. Sailing vessels shown with no masthead light, motor sail must show the power-driven lights and a cone shape pointed down. That's for the day shape. Also in rule 25, vessels under oar, maximum flexibility, sailing lights, all-around white light, or a flashlight. That flashlight to prevent collision. All of them to prevent collision. All of these lights, all the configurations, the bottom line, the purpose is to prevent collision, but it's also being able to identify what's going on with the boats that are around you in the evening hours when you can't see it, or restricted visibility. Boom. That's it, folks. That's a lot of information, and I just scratched the surface. When I looked at it, I said, wow, where do I start? With the red and the green, that's a good basics. Those are things that you learn in basic boating, but you've got to understand that the combination of those, size of the vessel, configuration, what it's actually doing, all of those things can come into play. Future Boat on Course training sessions, you can go to boatoncourse.com in the training sessions. In fact, we know that there is one tomorrow. And Pam, what is that you're presenting tomorrow?
It's a much simpler one. It's head-on situations.
I think I had 75 pages. I think the head-on situation is a half a page. So you lucked out. And I found out that it's Bree that makes the assignments on this, so I'll remember that.
Thank you, Bree.
You're welcome.
Let me just say that sitting through the Boat on Course training sessions is it's a joy in presenting them, but it's also very rewarding being able to listen someone else's perspective on this by taking it from the NAV rules, because there's many different interpretations. Of course, they all have to come to the same end, but the way people look at them, the way they remember them, is something that you can get out of who's ever presenting the material.
Oh yeah, you always learn something new. I mean, you always
You
think
always-
you know the material, but you always hear a different perspective and you're like, wow, I didn't think of it like that. So it's always nice to hear a different perspective on it.
And I appreciated those people who braved this day when they saw the title of what it was all about. And if you have any questions, you can email me. Not that I can have it right away, but I will look it up. Answers are possible. I mean, if you have a question, there'll be an answer on how it can be dealt with. It might be very complex, but it can be dealt with.
Thank
Okay.
you, Virgil, so much. And
Thank you all. It's been enjoyable.